allow me to, just give you one, question that how, what is the role of AI and machine learning in supply chain efficiency? How can we increase using AI ML? I know you will agree that this has been going on for long, AI and all, but then it has come into the mainstream. In any boardroom, everybody talks about AI. तो कैसे use करना है, क्या करना है? That's a question mark. So if you can please help us out, sir.
No, it's my experience on artificial. So two things, I have seen AI or ML, whatever you may call that, is very interesting for end user cases. Okay. Now, when it comes to business cases, as you rightly pointed out, Dr. Kothaari, a lot of boardroom talk happens, but not so much happens in the businesses at this point in time. And for the businesses to happen, there is a lot of, let's say, enterprise softwares which are running the supply chains or which are running the ERMs or whatever it is. Now, as long as these enterprise softwares don't bring AI modules into their products, it will actually be the talk of the boardroom and only a lip service. Now, to create a very simple AI case on supply chain, on demand planning, for example, we have actually used that in various cases. For example, prediction of demand for medicines. When is the, it is also linked to, for example, the rains, the weather, the flu outbreak, and so on and so forth. So there are AI models which companies like us are actually today using to be able to predict which medicines will actually be demanded much higher, depending on variety of parameters, not just the weather, but also about the travel metrics which actually we take. And the travel metrics are not post facto travel metrics. The travel metrics are actually, now we are able to derive from the airline industry in terms of the bookings. Yeah, you go to the Make My Trip, actually get data from them in terms of what the bookings are happening and those kinds of metrics. So there is artificial intelligence which is actually being used for predicting what we call as, the acute diseases medicine forecast, not for the chronic. When I say chronic is like blood pressure, blood sugar, etc. Those, there is not too much of a variation, but for acute diseases, there is a lot of variation, and we use them for actually demand forecasting and prediction. Coming to, let's say, execution, which is what a lot of practitioners here are, in terms of supply chain execution, there are warehouses. Now, warehouse management systems are also putting in a lot of data analytics and AI for actually being able to kind of create a pick-pack list. You know what I mean to say? For example, a very fast-moving item should be closer to the door, and a slow-moving item can go four levels high. Those are very simple rules, but complex algorithms using artificial intelligence are actually making it far more simpler for operations even in the warehouses today. So these are two use cases in my personal experience which we have seen and have been very useful for large companies.
So how did you manage to convince the boardroom talks for artificial intelligence?
That's a million-dollar question, I would say. I mean, fortunately, I happen to be sitting in the boardroom, but I have to actually convince my other colleagues about investments. Yeah, and I have a very simple philosophy. When you make investments, there are two things. One is ROI in investment, and the other is about your faith and faith in that particular topic and about investment. Yeah, and when I have followed two rules in my life. One is sometimes it is easier to get, pardoned than getting a permission. If you really believe that this is the right thing to do, go ahead and do it. And if it has gone wrong, then you ask for forgiveness. That's one thing. The other is also about if you really believe that this is the right thing to do for the company or for the department or the organization. Yeah. It's about leap of faith. It's about I mean, I give an analogy as an example that we end up sending all our children to the best of the school for education. We don't calculate an ROI on the fees for the school of education. Okay? Now that is because we believe that education is going to do good for the lifetime of that particular child. And these are the two simple rules which I follow. And fortunately, I have not faced too much of a problem in terms of convincing the board. Yeah. So let me ask you, I have pondered upon a case of actually using, let's say, artificial intelligence for, let's say, prediction of a demand or a supply planning or anything of that sort. Do you have any examples in your past variety of experience? You bring in a huge amount of experience from a diversity perspective. Yeah. I mean, do you have any experience where you can elaborate upon where the audience can gain out of, perhaps?
So, yeah, so there are a couple of examples, but one peculiar example which might have not been used by the industry, pardon my ignorance, when I was working for a manufacturing industry, the products what we were selling, they were on very thin margins. So now what was happening that ours was totally B2B business. Our 85% was B2B and 15% was only B2C business. So in that case, what was happening is that, like when the payment was being done, तो क्या होता था, invoice used to come, then वो statement आता था, and based on that, your payment credit period has gone away. So instead of 30 days, go to 60 days, sometimes 90 days, and then you do the reactive thing. So what we wanted to do is that, that how can we get the trigger about based on the past data of those particular our suppliers, or no, not our suppliers, our dealers and distributors, how we can get to know as soon as the invoice is printed. So that the managing director's wish was that I want to get on, the moment invoice is printed, I should get to know that red flag should raise, that this, your distributor is a potential defaulter of your timelines. So then...
That's a very interesting one.
So what we did, we did this in 2020, 21, so just 3 years ago. But at that point of time, yes, we were successful close to around 75%. Because our algorithm was still learning at that point of time. I'm sure today we must have reached around 80 to 85%, at least minimum. So what was happening the moment that invoice was getting printed for that particular dealers or distributor, immediately you get the sales head will get for that particular region, they look, hey, this ABC may not pay you in 30 days based on historical data. So what they used to do, the moment that invoice dene ko jata tha na, maal dene ko, so follow started from that point only. So that our credit cycle which was there, in fact, it got shortened. So that people were chasing like mad. So instead of 30 days, we used to get payment sometimes in 28 days, 25 days. So the purpose was to, get it disciplined. Of course, there were to deploy this particular algorithm, just sharing 2 bits of it is that it was a challenging task. Because what is happening, in every organization, I'm sure, the data is scattered somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, so now to get entire data into one dataverse or data lake, whichever language what you say, that was a huge challenge. Next, the quality of data. So to clean that quality of data as per the requirement of those algorithms was a humongous task. That is why it took us more time, but we learned. And as you rightly mentioned that your enterprise software which is there, which should have that capability to maintain and withhold that algorithms. So that is where we had to change our ERP also. That was one use case for as far as manufacturing is concerned. Regarding the current role which I am playing, we are into food and beverage business. We have chain of restaurants and we have sweet shops also, where it's an perishable items are there. Now, what was happening was the malfunctioning of the equipments. Again, that was all happening reactive. So, what we wanted is that how can we use those particular maintenance, predictive maintenance, before it goes into a different tangent. So
Fantastic.
that is where we started that journey. We are currently successful close to around 60-65%. The target is reached to 80% in next 1.5-2 years. So those were the two use cases which we can give you. And third, as you said, predictive analysis in your industry. Same, we also had the challenge when I was working with the jewelry industry. Jewelry industry works purely on season. It's a seasonal business, absolutely. Out of 365 days, our sales guys works only 30-35 days. Rest of the days is business as usual.
Okay.
कुछ नहीं है धंधा डायमंड खरीदने रोज नहीं आएगा ना कोई सर.
So this is even more seasonal than garments, I guess.
Yes. So that is where we wanted to. So we tied up our Gems and Jewelry Association. They tied up with Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay. That is where they took the project. They took 7 jewelers in all as a consultant because they wanted data. He said that without data I can't do. So all, after completing legal formalities and all, they went to a level of asking us which level your store is. Okay? What is the size of your store? So they went to that granular level to understand that say Dhanteras aayega to aapka first floor koi chadega kya nahi? When there are other jewelers on ground floor as well. So those things we did, and there also the biggest challenge was the data. So my, bad luck is that wherever I go, there is a problem of data. I don't know whether it's my problem or